look at it through the customer's lens rather than what makes it right for us, and then go backwards through that and make it work out, then it feels like you did it for the customer. It feels more like hospitality. It's more of the experience. And all it is looking through a different lens and say, okay, this is the way the customer is going to experience it.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Golden Wrench Podcast, where I get to talk to anybody, and frankly, everybody I want to talk to when it comes to the fixed ops side of the business. Now, I got a special guest for you guys today. He's sitting in the background right now listening to me, but we got some seriously cool topics that we're going to get into. But hey, we can't make cool content like this without our sponsors. And here's a quick message from our sponsor. For years, I've been saying that you have to process your way to profitability, and no one knows that better than the folks at Repair 360. You all know how important it is to have a fast, streamlined used car reconditioning process. Remember, time kills profit. Getting a used car frontline ready in less time while providing transparent communication between departments is what Repair 360 is all about. With Repair 360's automated used car recon manager, you will drive recon times down while giving sales the visibility they need to stop complaining. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that part. Anyways, you have to check out their website at repair360.com and see how they can revolutionize your reconditioning process. All right, guys, I told you I got an amazing guest today. I'm saying I have the one, the only, the oh so famous Mr. Ed Roberts. I can hear him giggling in the background. I have Mr. Ed Roberts with me in the house. Ed, what's up? How you doing, man?
Excellent. How about you, Jason?
Good. Sorry, I was trying to summon my inner McMahon there, but just it came out. It was good. We'll go with it.
You did a great job.
Thank you, Ed.
Yes.
Hey, Ed, man, I am so grateful for you to take the time. I know how crazy busy you are over there. So I really appreciate you taking the time to jam with us today. And we have some seriously cool topics that we're going to go over. But hey, before we get into some of this great content, I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story. Because I'm always just fundamentally fascinated. So how did you get into this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Well, that could get deep, but we'll keep it we'll keep it on the surface.
First thing, how many years, Ed? Let's do that. How many years?
32 years, probably longer than some of the audience out there right now. So
quite possibly.
Yes. 32 years I've been in this business. 32 years and 2 months, like in a couple days.
Wow, that's awesome.
I got in this business July 20th of 1992.
1992. So you got to tell me, man, how did it happen?
So I started life out in very humble beginnings, and when I say that, I grew up in the ghetto of Jacksonville, Florida, and just looking for an opportunity, and it didn't matter where. I just wanted a job. I wanted to be able to do something to earn some money, and because at that point I was homeless and I was doing whatever I could, picking up trash and mowing lawns and digging in dumpsters, whatever it took. And so I was asking any and everybody for an opportunity. And then I asked one guy, I still went to high school, still graduated high school and all those things, even though I had that stuff happening in life. And most times you drop out and you whatever, but I was still doing that. And I had a job fair at school. And I met a guy, fixed ops director at a car dealership there, and asked him to give me a chance. And living that life, I looked like a hoodlum, sound like a hoodlum, smelled like a hoodlum. I didn't know that there was anything wrong with that at that time, but I know now that I wouldn't put my best foot forward because I didn't know how to. And he says, yeah, I'll give you a chance. And then that store didn't. And for various reasons, for those things I just said, I probably didn't look the part for them. But I said, well, they was going to give me a chance. Let me try another car dealer. And then I went to another car dealer and they gave me a chance. And I've been here ever since. And so I started in this business as a tech apprentice. I've been a technician, shop foreman, service manager, fixed ops director, worked for Ford Motor Company, worked for Toyota. And now most recently in my current role, I do some consulting The chief operations officer at Bozard Ford Lincoln, and I'm the author of Mile One, and also a father and a spouse.
Man, what a ride!
It's been a
Like,
fun.
I mean, like, dude, the fact that you got the no and shut down, but you still decide to move on. Like, imagine if you just took the no, right? Like, but this is what I love about this industry, Ed. Like, I really, really love about this industry, right? Like, it doesn't matter from what background, walk of life, or ethnicity. Like, you come in and just work it and have passion. Like, it's amazing. It really is. I mean, like I did stupid things in high school. I definitely was not thinking I was ever going to get in the car business. I got into a car business actually on a bet. You know that? That's actually how I got into it. Someone bet me I couldn't do a better job than them. I showed up for one of those 2 week unpaid training programs, like the guy smoking a cigar. There's 30 of you in the room, but I'm only taking two. Like very very game of end games, right? Kind of a style, right? Anyways, I digress. And I'm glad through all of that you've been in the business. You've seen the business change a lot over the years. You've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm not talking about the movie. You've seen it all. So I love getting into our first topic, which is looking through the customer lens. And I know we got a chance to talk a little bit about this before we started recording, but I think there's still a huge opportunity for many people out there watching, listening, to really kind of step back. And you got a unique perspective on it. So I'd love to get your take on looking through the customer lens.
Well, let me go back to what you was just talking about there with getting into the business, and you got in on a bet. I want to take that a little bit further because I tell people all the time this is a no money down business. You don't have to bring experience. You don't have to bring this. You don't have to go to school for it. You can get into it with no investment. All you have to do is bring the right attitude and effort. And I'm doing the commencement speech here in a couple of days for a college, and that's exactly what I'm going to tell all of them is it's attitude and effort. It's what we bring. If we bring the right attitude and effort, that no doesn't matter. What we hear is we don't hear the no. I heard not yet. Okay. Well, when you add that to it or you change that no to a not yet, that means there's still an opportunity and you chase that opportunity. Uh, and then looking at things through a customer's lens, and that really doesn't matter the industry. There's so much that we look at and we say, okay, well, what makes it easy for us? What makes it flow? What makes it the most convenient or efficient for us? And then we develop the processes around that.
Yeah, it's about me.
The unfortunate side, yes, about me. The unfortunate side is it creates more speed bumps and more obstacles for the customer. And when we look at it through the customer's lens, rather than what makes it right for us, and then go backwards through that and make it work out, then it feels like you did it for the customer. It feels more like hospitality. It's more of the experience. And all it is looking through a different lens and say, okay, this is the way the customer is going to experience it. I mean, I'll give you an example. You look at a website, a dealership's website, and you go to service and you go to create an appointment. And then as soon as it gets to what you need, they got 97 things there at best. Some of them's over 100, some of them's maybe a little bit less of. All this stuff that means nothing to the customer. It's acronyms, it's whatever else. Now, that doesn't help the customer any. They're already confused. They don't know what they need. They know a light's on their dash. They don't why you want to ask all those technical questions. Make it convenient, make it easy to choose. I need to get my car serviced, or I need to get my car repaired. And if you need more information, put it there. So when you look at it through the customer's lens and make it convenient for them, they feel less stressed and they feel better about before they even show up. That's the introduction. Before they even show up, they feel better about coming in to see you.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you say that because, like, I got to be honest with you. Website forms crack me up. Like, they crack. It actually blows my mind. We actually still have them out there, right? Like, I mean, think about this from the customer's perspective, right? Give me your first name, last name, email address, phone number, shoe size, blood type, firstborn. All right, and then that information will get sent into a CRM, which will then send you an auto reply letting you know we received your information, but we'll get back to you when it's convenient for us, not when it's convenient for you. It blows my mind that as
Right.
an industry we're still doing stuff like this. Sorry, anyways, go ahead.
You're right. Asking them for the VIN. No customer knows their VIN. They don't know where to find their VIN. We think, well, all you got to do is go out and they don't know that. We know it because we're inside of it. They don't know that. So let's not ask them questions that they can't answer. Make it convenient for them. Look at it through their lens. What are they going through? And same thing when they pull onto the lot. If you don't have signage, and that may sound very simple, that says, hey, you need to be here, they don't know where they need to be. The next thing you know, they're wondering, am I parked in the right place? Do I need to go in here? Where do I go in at? And we got to look at it through the customer's lens and everything we do. If you don't have parking spots, it isn't to the customer's perception that you're busy and they want to be a part of it. It's you're too busy for them and they don't want to be a part of it. So everything's got to be through the customer's lens. It's when you come in to look at a vehicle. Let's take a service out of the equation for a minute. And you're coming in to look at a new vehicle that's been sitting out in the hot sun for 6 hours, and you go pull it up, and sweat's pouring off of your forehead. You knew they was coming. Why didn't you pull it up, cool it down, maybe run it through the car wash, have it ready for them? Look at it through their lens to where it makes them feel good about it in everything you do. When you do those things, things start just clicking along the way. And it may sound like it takes more time in the beginning, but it actually takes less time because you don't have the obstacles to overcome.
No, you're 100% right. But I have to say, both of us, we've been in the business long enough that I think allows us to have a little tough love for our business because we love the automotive industry. We love it. Now, do we necessarily agree on all those stupid little things we do? Not so much. I mean, like Ed, I remember when I was being trained to sell cars, it was all about keeping control of the customer. Like, I remember this and I remember it so vividly because now I laugh at it, right? Like, you make the customer keep the hood open for you. Even though there's a stick and a latch to do it, don't do that. All right. Make the customer keep that hood open so that you're like, I'm in control. I'll tell you now what to do and where to go and stuff like that. It's like, and I hate to say it, no, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great progressive dealers out there that are watching and listening. Hence the reason why they watch and listen to this. But, we do know that there's still some good, bad, and ugly out there. Right. And I know you talk a little bit about this actually in your book and you got some great examples of that. Would you mind sharing a few?
It's we have so much opportunity. Look at it right behind you. You got make it happen, and that's where it's at. It's always between our ears, and what we tell our mind believes and it takes in. And if we say that I'll try that, then you put yourself in position to try that. If you say I can do that, then you put yourself in position to go do it. And another thing that I talk about a lot is, and a lot of times we do this, no matter what industry we're in, is we're going to try something, and when we say we're going to try something, we create a plan B. If that don't work, we'll go to this. Well, then what you're doing is you're creating yourself a scapegoat, because that means that you're not committed to plan A. You're already planning for it to fail, and here's my backup plan. So then as soon as you run into an obstacle that can be overcome, as soon as you run into that obstacle, rather than overcome that obstacle, you shift to plan B. All right, well, that didn't work out. Let's go here. And then the message you're sending to everybody is we're going here, we're going there, we're doing whatever, we're never consistent on anything. That's what the customer feels. And so choose something and choose to work through it. Are you going to make mistakes? Are you going to do something that doesn't work out? Yes, you are. But identify that you've went through the obstacles and you've tried to overcome the challenges, and maybe things come into play that you didn't expect, which caused you to have to shift. But when you go into it already with plan B, you're going into it with the wrong mindset. You're going into it with the expectation that if it fails, your mind hears the if, and then it allows you to process that something caused it to fail. And then you shift to plan B. And when that don't work out, you just revert back to the way you always done it. And that's what we hear all the time. Well, because that's the way we've always done it. And then you say, well, why don't you try this? Yeah, we tried that, but that didn't work. And well, that's because you didn't overcome the obstacles and you had a backup plan. And then when the backup plan didn't work, you just went back to the way you always did it. So it is a mind game. It's a mindset of how you approach anything, whether it's change, whether it's something new, whatever it is. You have to convince yourself that we can do this, we will do this, and here's why we're going to do this. And then you will work harder to overcome those obstacles rather than throw in the towel when you hit an obstacle.
You know what? It sounds like you just described my adolescence every Saturday night out as I'm going to the bar, right? Like, okay, that's my plan, but yeah, okay, she might be plan B. It's just- but no, you're right. You're right. You're all joking aside. You're 100% right. Right. It's I find, and we've kind of talked about it, right? Like if we're really going to commit to looking through the customer's lens, two part, right? It's the mindset that you're talking about. Like, don't have this backup parachute, even though probably you do jump out of an airplane, you should have a backup parachute. Anyway, anyways,
You
but
don't have to have a you don't have to have a parachute to jump out of an airplane.
I guess so. That's true. I guess
You only got to have a parachute to jump out of an airplane to do it twice. If you only, so you don't need to do it once, but you might need it to do it twice. So
that
the
is a really good point. If you're going to do it twice, you're going to need one. But then I love this little things. I call it the little things. So it was something that I actually started doing in my operations, and for anybody out there watching, listening, this changed my operations, my dealership in a very huge way. Don't get me wrong. I would have my meetings with my managers to discuss the big things, right? The dollars, the pennies, the new hires, the fires, whatever, the stuff like that, right? But I actually found more operational change and bigger ROI in hosting something I called the little things meeting. And it was something where my managers had to come to me with one or two little things that they were going to fundamentally change or execute within a 2 week period, right? So nothing big. To your point, Ed, like it could be the signs outside. Like, do they know which door they should be going through, and do they know which areas are the proper parking areas for the customers, or is it the way that we're answering the phones, or is it the way that we're presenting the RO back to the customer? Are we just kind of tossing it to them, or we started using folders and putting it in a folder and something that they'd want to keep. I'm sure you've seen some great examples of little things. I'd love to pick your brain. What are some of the little things you've done? Because I know you've done a lot over at Bozard. What are some of the little things that made huge impacts for your business?
Man, there's a countless number of them. I'll touch on a big one, and then we can touch on some smaller ones. So a bigger one is we're a destination. All of us are, and the reason why we have to fight the aftermarket is because we're not convenient. We are destinations to most customers, and so if they've spent 30 minutes to travel to us, and it's going to take an hour and a half to do the repair. Well, it's 30 minutes for them to travel back home, 30 minutes for them to get to figure. Well, I'll just give up the other 30 minutes and hang out here for the hour and a half, so I don't have to make that hour trip, round trip back and forth. And so they sit in the customer lounge. Well, a bigger thing that not everybody can do is we create a restaurant. We have a restaurant in our dealership. It's a full-fledged restaurant, full bar, full everything, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it is a huge time filler for when a customer comes in and wants to wait and whatever else. They can go over, they can grab lunch, they can grab a beer, they can do whatever. It's a sports bar, they can go and watch sports, whatever it is.
That's so awesome. I'm coming.
And so those are some of the things that makes it nicer for a customer. It's never nice or fun for them to have to go in and get their vehicle repaired. But when you can make it, and when you can take elements of it and say, okay, well, that didn't suck. I think that was Carvana's deal in the first part of their deal was that didn't suck. Well, that's exactly what happens in those situations. And then looking at some other things through the customer's lens, and a couple of them is meeting customers on their terms, whether it's pickup and delivery, whether it's mobile service. Let's take that a step further. The industry, we'll lock in on it for a moment. The industry is starting to gain some traction with mobile service. Everybody's still trying to figure out how can I make it pencil? How can I do this? How can I do that? There's ways to make it pencil, and we'll talk about that for just a second. But pickup and delivery, the only cost is your driver to go out and back. And if you leave them alone, or maybe that's part of the train, whatever it may be, figure that out. From a mobile service standpoint, can I make that pencil? Well, yes, you can make it pencil because you're not going to do the things in field that you need to lift a vehicle off the ground for. I think, well, what can I do in field? Anything you don't need a lift for. Software updates, recalls, uh, services, whatever. If you can walk through your shop and look through and see how much stuff that they're doing without a lift, that they didn't set the lift on, it can be done in field. SOP parts, all those things. Um, and we think, well, how can I make that pencil? Well, how do you make that oil change pencil that you do in there? That is the most utilized op code you have in any of your dealerships out there. And you don't make money on an oil change but you still do them more than anything else. Well, back into the mobile service deal, and if it creates a different price level, people will pay for convenience. There's a reason why you, Jason, when you go to Outback, you pay one price for a T-bone versus going to a Ruth Chris or a Capital Grill and pay for a T-bone. It's still a piece of steak. They can tell you this top 1%, this top whatever. It's still a piece of dead cow. That's a piece of beef with a similar shaped bone and a similar texture to the meat, cooked over fire or some type of grill. It's the experience that you go through. Well, people will pay for those experiences. So if the charge to come into the store is this, then the charge to come to them is this. You don't have to make it a fee because people don't like fees. This is the charge for me to come to you. And you think, well, if your AC quits working at your home, you don't go outside, take your AC out of your house, put it in the back of your truck, take it in an AC shop and get it fixed. No, you call them and a mobile truck shows up and fix your AC at home. Well, that's the same thing with our vehicles. We go and we service them where the vehicle is, where the unit is, and when we do those things, now we've given the customer back their time. They've never had to disrupt their day. They drove to work. We showed up their place of business. We took care of their vehicle. They drove home. They never missed work. It wasn't an issue. Well, it took 30 more minutes or whatever else. It was not an issue. Pickup and delivery is very similar. But take that a step further. Let's say when someone's searching for a vehicle and they narrow it down to three, let's say they're looking for something that I don't sell new. They're looking for a Silverado, and I happen to have one, and I have the color that they're looking for and the elements of what they're looking for in that Silverado, and they submit a lead, and then one of my salespeople gets connected with them. The next thing most everybody does everything in the world they can do to get them to come into the store.
Exactly. Yes.
Well,
I'm not going to make it convenient for you. Just do what I need to do, not what you want. Right.
exactly. So then the customer says, "Well, I'm not going to waste my time and come into the store if I don't even know what you're going to give me for my trade. If I don't know this, and if I don't know the condition of the vehicle, can you tell me some more about the vehicle? How long have you had it? Why haven't you sold it yet? Whatever it may be." What if I say, "Jason, I see that you're 18 minutes away from me. Why don't I go grab the keys, drive this thing over to your place, we check it out together?" Now I've taken everything out of the equation that prevents you from saying I can't come in, and I'm on my way to you with the vehicle that you're interested in. And I don't care if you narrowed it down to three vehicles. You've now narrowed it down to mine because that's the one you're going to look at.
Exactly. Well,
And that,
and we know people will pay for that convenience. See, the funny thing is, it's like everyone will pay for convenience. Here's one of the places I find that's kind of hilarious when it comes to convenience, and it starts becoming more of a fee. Is the airlines these days? All right, they got a $7.99 fee if I want to stand in one line versus another line, which I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, you got me on that one. All right, but if you want Wi-Fi, it's $7.99. But if you're going to be streaming the Wi-Fi, it's actually another $19.99. If you're going to bring one suitcase versus another suitcase, well, that's going to be another one. So I'm with you. I think to a certain level, we'll pay for the convenience, but then at what point did it becomes fees? It's a fine line, right? We have to figure that out as dealers. Do you agree?
exactly. Just hit them with the charge, and people will pay for a higher line when they know that there's not going to be other things that inconvenience them. And so there's a reason why you fly with Delta versus flying with Spirit, because you're not going to be feed to death with Delta, and you're going to get some of those amenities that you pay fees for at Spirit. And both of them will get you there. Both of them is going to leave the ground. It's going to land. You're going to get off the plane. They're going to get you to your destination. And people ask me all the time, "How was your flight?" Well, any flight I get to talk about was great.
Right, dude, you got some good one-liners. I'm gonna tell you that. Like,
So, and at the end, it's the convenience that comes along with it. And when you're on a Delta flight, you automatically get free movies, you get free this, and if you got their app, you got free what. So that's exactly what you're talking about. And but when you look it up, is the price of Spirit cheaper than Delta? Absolutely. But in the grand scheme of things, is it cheaper? Probably not.
and you're right, and I think for anybody out there watching this right now, it is a balance, right? It's a balance between convenience and fees, but then it's also you got to think it's like at what point does convenience overlay on top of experience, right? Because they kind of go hand in hand. It's like I know that there are definitely times that I've paid for. Okay, well, let's say. An airport lounge. I don't know why I'm traveling a lot right now, so maybe that's where my head is, but like I'll go pay to be in a lounge, and there's yes, I'm paying for convenience, but then there's also an associated experience that kind of goes along with that convenience. And I think if you're trying to figure out if you have fees or if you're charging for convenience, I think you have to test yourself like, well, does this fee or this does this cost create an experience, or is it just a fee at the end of the day, right? I mean, it's the best way to test
It really shifts to how does it make you feel? And if it makes you feel better about yourself, then you'll justify that. It's just like needs versus wants. We never want to spend money on needs. We need to buy a washer and dryer. We don't want to go do that, but we need it, so we have to go do it. Well, look at it from whether you're a shoe person or if you're a female and you're a purse person. Let's stick with the purse for a moment. You can go to Walmart and buy a purse for $5 that will carry everything you need it to carry. But that fills the need. But we go to Louis Vuitton or Coach or Kate Spade or those places and pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for the same size bag because of how it makes us feel. Well, that's a want. You needed a bag, but you wanted the other. And we'll spend money on wants versus needs and feel good about it. We'll spend money on that handbag, and go show it to all of our friends. But if we have to buy a washer and dryer, we're
100%.
complaining about it to all
Every
our
single
friends.
time. Every single time we'll do that, right? Every single time we'll do that. You know, but it's funny. I love the fact that you're bringing up like wants and needs. Yeah, I'm having like flashbacks to some very early training. Kind of when I got in the business and stuff like that. And we started to go down that rabbit hole. But I actually wouldn't mind if you don't mind. Maybe we're going back to that rabbit hole. We were talking a little bit about getting into the business and stuff like that. And you know. Ed, can I admit something to you real quick? All right. I was not the most emotionally intelligent owner or manager. All right. When I when I was actively in the car business, I was very much so suck it up, buttercup, check it at the door, and shut the hell up and get back to work.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I was like that, honestly, Ed, because that's how I saw my manager. I mean, that's what I assumed you did. You just yelled at people to shut up and go back to work. That's what management was, at least that's what I thought it was. Right. And, I just wanted to loop back around this because I think there's a lot of people out there that may be watching and listening right now who thinking about getting into the car business and is considering this as a career. Me and you have talked a little bit about this, and you got a unique perspective, and I love to kind of get your take on this. For anybody out there watching and listening right now who may be thinking about getting into the business, let's get some words of wisdom from Mr. Ed Roberts.
Well, let's talk to the audience about that because it's the audience that is always chasing these new people. If I get the right personnel, I'd do this. If I get the right person, if I had the right people, I'd buy this other store. Let's talk about that for a moment because we spend too much time talking about the generations that don't want to work. Millennials don't want to do this. Z's don't want to do that. Well, if you go down to McDonald's, they're full of millennials and Z's, and you're probably not going to get the experience that you want. And then you blame it on that generation. But if you go across the street to Chick-fil-A, they have millennials and Z's there as well, and the experience is so much better. And so what that should tell you is that millennials, there's nothing wrong with their work ethic. It's how we either inspire them or motivate them. And what you talked about was you motivated your team, maybe sometimes out of fear,
Most of the time, probably.
right, rather than inspire them to do it on their own. And that's what we miss with those generations. So let's go back maybe before you and I, Jason, to baby boomers, because that's an easy one to make a reference. And then we're kind of that bridge in between where baby boomers would get a job and they would work there until they retired. And if they didn't like it, they maybe quit that one when they were retired from that one when they was done and were ready to retire and went and started another one and retired from the second place. They didn't have 15 different jobs. And then for us, it was kind of narrowing that gap a little bit. And for us, we'd work 8 to 10 years, 5, 8, 10 years at a place. Well, with millennials and Zs, that window shortened even more to where they might be there. They might work 3 jobs in a year. But what they're really telling you is they're working 3 jobs because they don't feel valued. And we have to give them a career path because they've been exposed to their cell phone forever. They was born with it and it evolves. And they should be able to evolve. The games that they play, they progress in those games. And so if we create those career paths, those guys will chase those things and we have to have them. We can't expect them to just, well, if they learn here, if they hang out with this guy, they'll learn that. The standby method don't work. The stand by this guy will teach you everything you need to know.
You definitely, you know what? I think you must have worked at the exact same dealership as I did, because once I did the 2 weeks of unpaid training, it was like go spend 2 weeks being that person's slave for the better part of anything. Get his coffee, fill out his paperwork, go grid his cars, bring him around the corner. You worked at the same dealership I did.
Yeah, do everything he doesn't want to do, and then hopefully you learn from that, and you can learn how to be that person. Well, create those paths, and then our team starts to chase those things, and the inspiration of being able to find something better, find something bigger, give them a new challenge is what they chase at that point. And those millennials and Z's will go to work for you way with just as much commitment as boomers and X's, but with a lot more passion. And I'm at a very large Ford and Lincoln store. And we run about 550 cars through here a day, and from a service standpoint, and we sell nearly 1,000 cars a month. And almost three-quarters of my staff is millennial or younger. So I don't have an issue with them working, but just about everybody in my staff, about 80% of my staff, has started in a different role than they're in today, and they was able to progress into that next role, and they was able to progress because they knew the steps they needed to take to get there. So one of the things that we have here that's allowed us to continue to, and we're always working on it to make it better, is Bozard University. And if anybody wants to check it out, you can go to bozardu, the letter U.com, and that's my university website. And there's things that's not available to you on the outside if you look at it and see, but there's a path. There's something there's a guide if you want to create something similar. And think about that from a recruitment standpoint. When I go into a job fair and I want to talk to people about entry level spots, and I can show them that, and I can show them their opportunity to grow within us, then I'm not no longer competing with the other people around me at that job fair. It's about whether I want them or not. And if I don't want them, then they'll go to the others. But then that gives us first option.
Well, look,
And we
it's
can
it's
all do
it's
that.
also so clear and transparent. You know what I mean? Like I got lucky. Honestly, I got lucky in the business. My first, I'll tell you how I got lucky. All right, the first dealer I worked for lost his license, and for drinking and driving. Anyway, he lost his license. He couldn't drive himself. So being the newest guy in the dealership, guess who had to drive him to lunch and back every single day and pick up his dry cleaning and other stuff like that. But I say this, it sounds bad, but what I got was I got access to an individual with a wealth of information. And it was funny because we spent a lot of time with each other. Jason, what do you want to do? I said, I'm like, well, Bob, I'm gonna be you one day. Just I'll have a license. He didn't think it was funny. But, but I did. I wanted to be a dealership owner, and I spent enough time with him. He actually showed me a path of like everything that he went through and all the things that all the different things he had to get through, all the things he had to learn, and all the struggles and stuff like that, which then opened and that did, and and it fast tracked me. I was able to become a dealer principal at a very young age because of this path. Now he wasn't intentional in giving me that path. I actually had to pull it out. But Ed, what you're talking about is intentionally showing someone a path and letting them go explore it. I mean, I'm curious because you probably got some great examples of this right now at the dealerships. Anybody you can share with us that's that just kind of like really took it and ran with it?
So I will. I'll give you an example of a shop foreman. I have two shop foremans, and one of them is now 27 years old. And when he moved into that role, he was 25. And think about, I want the audience to think about that for a minute. Think about your shop foremans that you have in your place where maybe it's someone that's aging and whatever else. Did you put them there because they was slowing down? And maybe that's the wrong reason. Maybe there's opportunity to create a career path with that person. But what you don't want them to do, and what your people is telling them, is when the younger ones come in, I don't know why you chose this business. Look at what it's done to me. That doesn't engage them. Well, I have a shop foreman that started in our development program, became a technician, became a group leader, and now is the shop foreman. And he's showing these guys that, hey, this was the path that I went down. If I can do it, you can do it. And he's still at their age to where they can all relate to him. And so the opportunities are endless. Truly, you talk about the sky's the limit. The only limit is right between our ears. It's in our mind. So if we take that off and we say, okay, what can I do to help my guys develop? You start getting the right people in the right places. And if you put people there just to kind of extend them out, put them in different roles, and there's times where we got to do that, or they want to slow down, they want to do something else, but don't put them in an influential role where they tell everybody the reasons why they shouldn't be in it. And there's so many places I go into. I told you earlier I was a consultant, and when I go into these places, and the shop foreman is saying, "We can't find anybody to work, and this, that, and the other. This is a hard business. We can't make any money in this business anymore." If he's telling me that, he's telling them that. And so at day one, they're questioning, did I choose the right place? And then they leave and they go somewhere else and they find a different thing. So you got to build the layers to where it continues to compound, not to where you're building walls without knowing that you're building walls of creating layers of resistance.
Ed, you're so right, and I've seen this play out also. Of course, in my dealership as well, right? It's like it's funny. As an industry, I think everybody out there watching and listening, as an industry, we're very good about telling our staff what we need from them. We're pretty good. We need you to hit these numbers. We need you to service this many cars. We need you to sell this many parts. We need you to do this. And the funny thing is when you don't have what Ed is just talking about here, a documented path of growth, right? Then what they see is just the box that they're in, right? And so for them to take ownership of, and I'm talking to you managers and owners out there, right? For you to take ownership of your why, if you want them to take ownership of your why, right? Get to those numbers: this many parts, this many cars, this many services, this many ROs, right? Like they need to know that there's more than just the box that they're sitting in, right? Like you're going to ask them to put the pedal down to the metal and get some stuff done, but if they don't see that there's benefit to that, like Ed's saying, like it truly it changes people. Look, Ed, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time, and I feel like I could easily do like a whole nother half an hour with you, Ed, because you're just such a monster wealth of information. But before I let you go, though, because I think for people out there watching, listening, who may be thinking about getting into the business, what advice would you share with them?
So in any business, whether you're coming into this or you're coming into anything else, bring the right attitude and put in the effort. And the if you do that, that sounds very simple, but a lot of times we have a good attitude, but we don't work that hard. Well, I deserve this. We become a little bit entitled, or we put in the effort, but nobody wants to be around you. Those two have to tie together. And then from the audience standpoint of being able to attract and keep those guys, is there's a reason why every sport out there has a scoreboard, because otherwise if we was just running up and down the field, whether it was soccer, whether it was football, whether it was basketball, and we didn't have a score, we wouldn't know where we're at. Everyone needs to know what good looks like, because a lot of times our staff has in their mind what good looks like, and you're thinking that's poor performance, and but they haven't been told. So they need to know what good looks like, and it's up for you to set that expectation. And then when you set that expectation and they exceed it, now you're creating the opportunity for them to talk to you about the next opportunity. But what happens in a lot of cases is we don't tell them what good looks like. They think they're doing a good job, and then an opening comes up that's there, that maybe has a little more, there's a little more required for that role. And you're thinking there's no way I'd give that person that opportunity, and they're thinking there's no reason why I can't do it. And then when you tell them, when you hire someone else for it, they leave you. Well, if they knew what good looks like and they was exceeding it, then that's a different conversation. If they're not exceeding it, that's an easy conversation. Here's why: I need you to get to here first, then we can talk about the next opportunity. And so if you're getting into any business, bring the right attitude, put in the effort, and give it your all. Give it your best effort every single day. If you do those things, and the audience, that our managers tells you what good looks like, and we go and find that, and we go and exceed that, then we all win.
And it really is the sky of the limit, man. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with us today. For everybody out there watching and listening who would maybe to love to learn more about yourself, get a copy of the book, or even check out the university that Bozard put together, what's the best way to connect with you, Ed?
So my book is on Amazon, Audible, all the platforms out there. It's Mal One: An Endless Journey to Effective Leadership. Um, the easiest way to connect with me is through LinkedIn. I will accept anybody that sends me a request through there. I'm an open book. Don't hesitate to reach out. Everything is on LinkedIn. My cell, My cell phone number, my email, everything is there. So that's the best way to connect with me. And the only dumb question is the one not asked. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will share anything I do. I don't care if you're the neighboring dealer or if you're a dealer 8 states away. We'll share anything we do because we're in it to learn from each other, and we can win together by making the industry better and stop talking about how the industry has a bad rap. The rap comes from the people that's in it, and we're the ones in it. We got to make it better.
You guys here, Ed's an amazing individual, so approachable, wealth of knowledge, such a servant's heart. And Ed, so I can't thank you enough for taking the time to jam with me today. For everybody out there watching, listening, you're amazing. If you love this content, and I know you do, all right, the biggest compliment you can give us is share the show. Share it with someone. Send it to the foreman. Send it to your manager, all right? The biggest compliment you can ever give us. Thank you for everybody's time. Y'all have an amazing day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.